All of wisdom, all of Proverbs is about decision making. We've been saying that for the last couple of weeks, and this year we are devoted to the book of Proverbs. But in these weeks we are taking that issue of decision making and putting it front and center. We're talking about it because it is one of the keys to the Christian life, and it is one of the things that seems to have fallen off in Christian practice, Christian discipline and prayer. We often have this concept of the Christian life that it's us just being sort of moved through our experiences, God moving us and God doing things through us, but not us making decisions about our lives. The book of Proverbs and the wisdom of God and the power of the Holy Spirit is saying to us, we are agents, decision makers in our lives. We are not passive observers, spectators to what God is doing. And the wonder of this is that God has called us to participate in His work. He has called us to participate in the building of His kingdom, in our own sanctification and growth. He has called us to be active in this process. So we're talking about decision making. And we've spent a couple of weeks acknowledging the big problems in decision-making, and that is the fog that sits in the future. We can't discern what's going to happen in the future. We can't really make it out. We don't know very much about it. And so we face uncertainty when we make decisions. But the other fog is inside of us. As we saw last week, our own motivations aren't very clear. And we're frequently not only deceiving people around us about what we're doing and why, we're frequently deceiving ourselves. And so we talked about that dynamic of self-deception and how to recover from errors in decision-making through confession of sin. We want to take another step this morning in talking about decision-making. If you want to have confidence in making decisions, you have to trust the person who sees through the fog. There is no confidence in decision-making by our own lights of penetrating the fog of the future, penetrating the fog inside our own hearts and understanding ourselves. There is no hope that way. The only hope for decision-making is to repose our decisions in faith in the God who knows the future and who knows us. So let's talk about that this morning. I love the prints of William Blake. You may know him as a poet. He was also a printmaker. He made a series of prints illustrating the book of Job. And this is one of my favorites. This is God, the vision of God at the end of the book of Job, in which Job, there in the center, has heard from God, has been challenged by God, and is now kind of reposing his confidence in God. He's no longer guarded. He's no longer defensive. He gets it. He gets who God is, and he gets what God has done for him. Next to him is the young man, Elihu, who also gets it, and God does not condemn him the way he condemns Job's friends, who are cowering in Job's shadow behind him at the vision of God. These friends who were kind of know-it-alls. They knew Job. They saw inside Job, and they knew why all of these bad things were happening to him. And they, at the end of the book of Job, they need a sacrifice for their presumption to pay for that sin in the way they treated Job when he was suffering. So this is a wonderful image of seeing who God is and resting in that knowledge. That is the confidence that we need when we face decisions about our future of any kind. and we're looking for that confidence. And so we're asking this morning, what does it mean to put faith in God when we make uncertain decisions? When you make decisions about the future that are uncertain, does it mean that you just know that the outcome you want is the outcome you're going to get? Is that what faith is? Not in my experience. I've told you I've basically given up praying based on certain outcomes that I absolutely must have, and believing with all my might that God is going to do it. Because if I don't believe enough, then he's definitely not going to do it. Now, that whole school of thought is bankrupt spiritually, and it will lead you to despair in your decision making. No, the only kind of faith we're talking about is a confidence that God himself is good in all the outcomes. Whatever's in that fog in the future, God is good, and he will lead you through it. Whatever is in that fog of your own motivations in making decisions, God is good, and he will lead you on a sure path. This is an interesting passage that we have landed on here this morning, Proverbs 16, 1 through 9. It's bookended by two verses, verse 1 and verse 9, that both describe the same thing. And I would just say to you, whenever you see a repetition like this in the book of Proverbs, it's a signal that you want to kind of take that passage of Scripture and go back over it between those bookends and really ponder carefully how these things are related to each other. Because Proverbs is, as I have found, deeply coherent, arranged with extraordinary and Holy Spirit-guided care, and the result is a massive puzzle that we can go back to and back to and back to and think about and reflect on. So let's look at these bookends first of all. What does it mean to have faith, confidence in God in decision-making? Verse 1, the plans of the heart belong to man, but the answer of the tongue is from the Lord. There are two plans here. There's my plan that I formulated in my heart for my reasons, my goals, my motivations, even the motivations I don't see and don't want to see and don't really understand. Those plans. And then there's the thing that actually happens in the moment. That's the second plan. That's God's plan. He is the one who determines what actually happens to my plans. The moment when I have to give an answer that I have not really thought about, or the moment when I give an answer that's different from the one that I thought I was going to give. That kind of moment, there are two plans. There are my plans and there are God's plans. Look at verse 9. The heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps. Same exact concept. I'm planning, I'm thinking, I'm looking into that fog in the future and the fog inside myself, and I'm trying to make decisions about all of these things in my life. I'm making plans. The one who is actually going to establish my real steps in all of that planning is the Lord. And what this presents to us is this kind of conundrum in life that our plans, most of the time, our decisions do not turn out the way we expect, and yet it is not all bad. It doesn't go off the rails. God is still good. What we want to see here this morning is how to grapple with this uncertainty and how to arrive at confidence in the Lord in the midst of these two plans, where you know that your plans may not turn out, but God's plans will come to pass. How do we deal with this? So we'll dive into this passage. Let me tell you a bit of a story. You know that in 2018, 2019, there was a big fire in California, and we, as a result of that, handed over the church that I was pastoring to my associate pastor. We led a transition there of about 6 months, and we planned all of that out. And the plan was that there was enough time both for the church to rethink how it was going to handle the completely changed dynamics in Chico, California, how it was going to move forward and come under new leadership. The church was going to have enough time to do that, and I was going to have enough time to find another ministry and move my family on so that the church in Chico could thrive. So those were painful decisions. Here's one of the things that was most painful of all. We came to the end of that 6 months and we were out of time. I still didn't have a ministry to go to. So we made our plans. Plans didn't work out. Now we're stuck. Now we got a big problem because we were out of time. I couldn't keep going at the church. We needed to hand it off so that the church could stay afloat financially. But I also personally and my family needed to stay afloat financially. What were we going to do? Let's look at verses 2 through 8. What does it mean to come to a place of faith in your decision making? Faith that is wise. What is the wisdom of God for us here? So the bookends are, there are two plans. There's your plans and there's God's plans. So how does this play out? Tell us more, Solomon. Tell us more, Holy Spirit, about these two plans. Here's verse 2. All the ways of a man are pure in his own eyes. Well, we all kind of know that, right? This is the issue of motivations. This is the fog inside of ourselves. We look at our decisions, we look at the things that motivate us, and we say, hey, this is all checking out here. From my point of view, this all looks right. This is what we need to do. And so we all make decisions from a place of approving our own actions. But what's the second phrase here? All the ways of a man are pure in his own eyes, but the Lord weighs the spirit. There's a balance, and the Lord takes my spirit, my motivations, my thoughts, my plans, ambitions. He takes all of that, he puts it on one side of the balance, and he weighs it out on the other side. That's a very common picture of judgment, rendering judgment or rendering a verdict. Your motivations are good or they are not good, or your motivations are very mixed. But there's another way that this verb can be taken, and it's kind of interesting. The Lord either weighs the spirit or the Lord balances out the imbalances in the spirit. Now that's kind of interesting. It could mean either one. And you know, with the Proverbs, I've found this in Psalms and in the prophets as well, it often means all of it. Yes, the Lord judges. He evaluates our motivations, but he also comes into our hearts and he teaches us. He redirects us. He balances us out so that on the other side of the decisions we make, our motivations are frequently different than they were when we went in. So what were my motivations when we ran out of time in Chico and ran out of money and we needed to do something. Well, we made a decision that was very difficult, and it was made out of distress and out of fear, in all honesty. We sold our house. We moved to a much cheaper location, or we hoped it would be cheaper, in Oregon. And we moved to be closer to Bridget's parents there, and we just sought an apartment, and we're just going to hunker down here while I finish the work of trying to find the next ministry, and earnestly praying that it would all work out. I don't know whether you know this, but pastors don't get unemployment. So this one was on us. And so we had to make the best use of the resources that we had. And so we sold our house, piled everything into the moving van, and the house sold in 11 days. And we were praising God for that, and we left. That was it. No plan, no ability to see beyond the window of a couple of months. Where are you going to get health insurance? Where's Malcolm going to go to school? How is all of this going to work? We had to basically just figure that out in a month. And it all worked. But in the context of all of that, I would say all the ways of my heart, as I was evaluating them in my own mind, were, I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing what I am able to do. I'm making the decision that I need to make rather than just staring bankruptcy in the face. I'm doing my best. I'm afraid. I'm shamed for the first time in my life being without full-time employment. It was an experience I was not ready for, being in that spot with nothing lined up that was next. So I was feeling all these kinds of things, and here's the decision that I made. Here are the reasons that I made it. Maybe they're not very good, but this is the only thing that I think I can do at this point. So we made that decision, and here's the way this worked. Verse 3, commit your work to the Lord. Now, that's not what it says. What the original says is, roll your work to the Lord. So you back up your truck, and you've got that load in the truck. You roll it off the truck, and you drive away. That's the image. Commit sounds very churchy. Have a little prayer session and, Lord, we're committing this decision to you. And no, that's not what this is. This is take your work, roll it off the truck, and drive away. Now, that's very hard. In our case, that was 8 years' worth of work in the church in Chico. Roll it off the truck, literally drive away. That was our financial future. Realize the equity in your house. Commit it to the Lord. Roll it off the truck. Drive away. You got to trust Him. And that's what we did. There's this sense of abandon in a decision like this. It feels so wrong. And it feels like you're really supposed to do better than this. You're supposed to penetrate that fog in the future and see this coming and be ready for this. And Well, we weren't. We were bad Americans. We didn't do our jobs. We didn't foresee a natural disaster that would completely change everything and change all of the decisions that we had made. So sue me. What are you going to do? Take your work, roll it off to the Lord, and it says this: your plans will be established, made solid, put on a firm foundation, made stable. So your plans, wait a minute, those are the plans that I had with all of my motivations and ambitions and desires in my heart. Those plans that I made, the Lord has His plans, and it says here, if I roll my plans off to Him, He will establish my plans. There are some promises of God's wisdom embedded here. One of these promises is that my motivations are going to be weighed, sifted, and rebalanced, redirected by God in the process of my making decisions. That's quite a promise. I would encourage you to reflect on that promise deeply and at some length, because it means that it doesn't really matter how right or wrong, known or unknown, your motivations are. It means that God will lead you through. I hear so many Christians so often saying, well, I've got to find the right motivations. I've got to change my heart toward this. And I've got to figure all of this out before I make a decision. Because if I make a decision from the wrong motivations, then God's not going to honor it, and I'm going to be out in the cold. Hogwash. Nonsense. Even unbiblical heresy. You can't change your heart. Have you ever tried? You tried looking at your heart and saying, boy, this is terrible. I've got to change it. And did you? I have never succeeded at changing my heart. Not once. I have seen it change as I rolled my decisions off to the Lord and watched Him walk me through the fog, rebalance my motivations, and I come out on the other side a little bit wiser. I have seen that, but I have not seen this like Christian nirvana, if there is such a thing, of I found the right motivations, and now I can make the decision in a good conscience. I've never seen it. I've only seen mixed motivations, doing the best I can. So, that's either good news to you or it's the worst news you've ever heard. If your relationship with God is founded on you being right, then this is terrible news. Because all the work you've done to be right and to get your motivations right and to change your own heart is for naught. But if you're at the end of your ability to play that game, and if you're saying, I've never actually been able to do that, it's never worked, none of my decisions have been right in that sense. If you're there, then this is the best news you've ever heard. Because this means that God is for you, not against you, and He is going to establish His plans and yours, regardless of what your motivations are. Okay, so should you do things knowingly for wrong motivations? No, obviously not. But I'm talking to those of you who are struggling with dispelling the fog inside yourself, and I'm saying to you, you can't dispel it. You have to make decisions through it, and God will help you. Here's another one. Here's the next verse, verse 4. The Lord has made everything for its purpose, even the wicked for the day of trouble. And now we take a turn here. And the turn is away from issues of motivations inside myself, where I'm kind of looking at the scales of God's justice. I'm saying, I'm going to lose. He's going to weigh me, and he's going to find that I'm not motivated rightly. Okay, we're moving from that into justice outward in the community. We all have to operate in the communities that we live in, and there's wickedness in the community. There's sin, there's malice, there's evil operating in all different places in our community, in our state, in our nation. And we don't need to unpack all of the ways that wickedness is operating out there. So we might put it this way, in the context of Proverbs 16, all these people are making wicked plans. They're thinking that they can achieve sinful ambitions, and that they're going to get away with it even though it costs the other people around them. There's all these people out there thinking this way. What should we do about that? Well, there are two plans operating in every situation. There's man's plan and the Lord's plan. And this says, the Lord has made everything for its answers. Same word as verse 1. The plans of the heart belong to the man, but the answer of the tongue is from the Lord. And when you see a word repeated like that, it's kind of this tip-off that you're looking at related ideas here. So the Lord made everything for that answer, that moment when someone says something or does something they didn't expect. Maybe the wicked make a mistake that they didn't plan on, and that foils their wickedness. Or maybe their plan succeeds, and in the very success of their wicked plan, the wicked are ruined in reality. Friends, this happens all the time. Can you make decisions in fear of wicked people? You can. You're not going to do very well. We have to make decisions in fear of God, not in fear of the wicked. This is a core principle throughout the whole of the Scriptures. We think of Psalm 90, where we began our worship service. Moses saying, "We're all under your wrath. If you would teach us to number our days, then we would have a heart of wisdom in the fear of you." If we think about another wonderful piece of wisdom literature, Psalm 37, it says and reflects at some length, do not worry, do not fret over evildoers. Don't give them any thought, because they're in God's hands and He's going to ruin them. It's a powerful piece of Scripture. So, in the moment when Bridget and I made the decision to leave California and move up to Oregon, we really didn't know what was going to happen, and we felt very vulnerable to all kinds of wickedness in the world. We felt like here we're just kind of adrift on a chaotic ocean here. And what are we going to do? So the Lord has made everything for its answer, even the wicked for the day of trouble. The day of trouble that the wicked cause, or the day of trouble that comes upon the wicked. It's both. The Lord made all of this. So I would encourage you if you're feeling like in your personal life, you're extremely vulnerable to wicked people, like you've got no defense against them, or if you're feeling like in the context of our nation, and as Jeff was praying about the election, we just feel very vulnerable to the schemes and plans of wicked people. And so if you're Republicans, I am including Democrats in this. If you're Democrats, I am including Republicans in this. They are comprehensively wicked. And the smart people are suspicious of the whole bunch. And I hope you are too, regardless of what your beliefs or commitments are. If you're worried about this, the Bible is coming to you saying, yeah, they have a purpose. They have their plans, but there are two plans, remember. The Lord plans as well. He made them to fulfill a role of some kind in your life and in the life of our nation, and He's going to get His way. Look at verse 5. Everyone who is arrogant in heart is an abomination to the Lord. Be assured He will not go unpunished. Why would we need to be assured of that? Well, because it looks like they're going to get away with all of it. It looks like it's Psalm 37. They're just living the life of Riley out there, and they're doing whatever they want, and they're getting away with it. And this verse says, oh, no. And Psalm 37 says, nope. They're not getting away with it. They're storing up destruction for themselves because everyone who is arrogant in heart is an abomination to the Lord. Remember what we said abomination was? It's opening the jar that's been in the fridge way too long and it's spoiled, and the aroma from that jar hits your nose and you go straight to the trash can with that thing. That's an abomination. It's a stench that we react to at gut level. So that's what the arrogant are in heart. So another proverb about justice, verse 6. I'm fascinated by this. By steadfast love and faithfulness, iniquity is atoned for, and by the fear of the Lord, one turns away from evil. What does this mean? So when you're in situations where wrong stuff happens, steadfast love, hesed, and faithfulness or truth, the Hebrew word is emet, those two things atone for iniquity. They kind of roll over it, and they create new realities right on top of it. And this is what God does. So back to that image, you'll see it again in a moment, of Job and his friends kind of cowering behind him. Job's steadfast love to his friends leads him to obey God, make an offering, a sacrifice for them, and their sins are forgiven because of his steadfast love and faithfulness to them. So that's kind of an interesting idea here, that our steadfast love to each other in a world of wickedness helps us overcome all kinds of iniquity, even helps us atone for it, because ultimately it's all founded on the atoning work of Jesus Christ and His steadfast love and truth for us. So this says, iniquity is atoned for by the fear of the Lord, one turns away from evil. Job, in that horrible position he was in his life, facing all of these losses, at bottom fears God. And that keeps him from cursing God. It keeps him from denying God, blaspheming God, even in the face of all of these losses. And so it remixes him, it redirects him on the other side of this whole grievous process that he goes through, and he becomes a man of steadfast love and faithfulness because of God's steadfast love and faithfulness. Now, here's something that I learned. When we arrived in Oregon, a man showed up to help us unload. And he was a pastor at Salem Heights Church. We didn't have any connection to that church, but he gave us a morning helping us unload our moving van and shoehorn all the stuff into the apartment and the storage unit. Steadfast love and faithfulness. Through the connection with that church, they became aware of our situation, and we got counsel, prayer, support. We were included in the life of the congregation almost from week one. And through that, we got introductions and connections to different organizations, different schools in that area. I reconnected with Western Seminary, and because of their faithfulness, my alma mater for my MDiv, their steadfast love to me, they said, well, we need adjunct work. Can you do this adjunct work? They said the same thing at Corban University in Salem itself, and so I started teaching in person there. Through this network, I got introductions to teach at George Fox University, and so this network of faithful, steadfast love people sprung to life that I didn't even know was there. All I had done was rolled my work off to the Lord and drove away. And then the Lord's got this network of people that I didn't know about, and they spring into action, and I've got a little bit of work going, and I've got some classes, and I've got some very important advances in teaching and higher education and so forth after getting my PhD. All of these doors are suddenly opening, and they are all part of my life now. They have all contributed over the last 5 years to my growth as a person. They've contributed to us financially because I can work for them. They've done all of these things enriching my life. All I did was roll the work off and drive away. I didn't know about any of this. Steadfast love and faithfulness are two of the great goods in human life, the greatest. They come to us at low moments, and they bear us up and they encourage us. I hadn't planned on any of this, but somebody had planned on it. It was the Lord. Before we go on here, let me take a look at the questions coming in. There's several of them. The point about making choices despite mixed motivations, how does this relate to earlier advice to make small choices based on what's true and right? Good question and good clarification. So, a couple of weeks ago, I said, if you want to learn how to make decisions in an uncertain future, make smaller ones. Don't make a couple of big decisions. Make about 125 small ones. And the reason is, I can make small decisions about good and right things, and I'll comment more on this at the end of the sermon. I can make lots of those decisions, and I can learn kind of the nuts and bolts of trusting God for doing the right thing in small stuff. And I can roll the big stuff off to Him. And I can let all of that unmix my motivations. I can let all of that rebalance me inside so that making decisions that way is actually part of learning what are good motivations and right ones and what are not. So, for example, in Salem, being ministered to by this church was intensely humbling. I didn't want that humility. I wanted to go from one level of self-sufficiency to the next without those periods of needing to be ministered to. But I got the humility because someone else was planning, not just me. Next question. Is Proverbs 16:4 implying predestination, since it says the Lord created the wicked for the day of doom? Yes, it is. It is saying the Lord's really in charge here. There is a mystery here of our motivations versus what God does. God is not responsible for creating the wickedness of people. Wicked people are responsible for that. But he does allow wickedness, and he turns it for his purposes. He contains it, he limits it, he constrains it, and he uses it to do his things. Complicated subject, but that's all we'll say about that for the moment. How do we understand that God works all things for a purpose plan without sounding insensitive to suffering people? This is a great question and a very important one. The answer is, don't explain this to suffering people. Just don't do it. It's tempting to say, oh, I have the answer. The pastor just told us in Proverbs that how all of this works out. No, just that it's a trap. Don't fall into it. Don't explain this. They will learn it through God's good hand of providence. Your job with a suffering person, a grieving person, a person who is wounded, is to minister to the wound. Weep with those who weep. Bear the suffering. Don't instruct the suffering. So I'm glad somebody cleared that up. Finally, can you explain the difference between Hesed love and agape love? No, because there isn't one. Hesed, Hebrew word from way back in the Old Testament. Agape, Greek word expressing the same concepts in the New Testament. There are some differences, but there's this through line throughout the whole Bible from God's steadfast, loyal love in the Old Testament to the love of Jesus that led him to the cross. So when God says in Exodus 34:6, I am abounding in steadfast love, he sees the cross as the ultimate fulfillment of that statement. Great questions. One last point here in Proverbs 16:2 through 8, and that's about some of the results of this. Let's suppose that you roll your work off to the Lord saying, I've done the best I can with my planning, with my motivations. This is all I know to do, so I'm committing it, rolling it off the truck and driving away, and Lord, you can take care of that. So you've done that, acknowledging he's got his plan. And then you are trusting him even against the wickedness of the world and the vulnerability that you feel about that. You're saying, God, you are just, I am merely vengeful. So vengeance, justice belongs to you, not to me. You've made that move, then what happens? Verse 7. When a man's ways please the Lord, he makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. Lots of ambiguities here. Who makes the enemies to be at peace? The man who pleases the Lord or the Lord? Well, this is the ambiguity rule here. It's probably a little of both. the person making the decisions, when the person trusts the Lord, is going to see that his or her decisions contribute to wholeness and peace in the community around them. In the end of the day, they're going to say, I didn't see this peace coming. I participated in it, but I did it blindly. The one who really saw it coming and made this happen was the Lord. Two plans, one wins. God's plans win. And so this is, the next question about this, makes even his enemies to be at peace with him. Does that mean he wins them over? And they say, oh, I shouldn't ever have been your enemy at all. And so now let's live at peace. Is that how it goes? Well, sometimes. But the word makes them be at peace might have other meanings too. Might mean they have to live at peace with you because they don't have the power to touch you. They don't have the ability. They are prevented by God from doing the things they wished to do against you. There is that reality too. But so this encompasses a lot of things here, and it's ambiguous, but the ultimate point is, in your decisions, trust God's plan, which you don't know, knowing that his outcomes will be good. Finally, verse 8, better is a little with righteousness than great revenues with injustice. You know, we got through that period. We got through that period of about 8 months of unemployment. We got through it. We landed in Pennsylvania in a beautiful place, in a fine house, and the Lord provided what we needed in the moments that we needed it. He also provided through the steadfast love of his people, and he provided a period of ministry there in Pennsylvania that was very important to us and important to that church. He made all of those things come together in his steadfast love. Now, was it a period of great revenues? No. It was a period where the barns were full and they were sufficient. The Rayleigh-sized barns, not the Elon Musk-sized barns. So those barns, the Rayleigh barns, were full and they sufficed. And in the uncertainty of the future years that came after that, they sufficed again and again. Each day the Lord provided, and it was sufficient. It was even more than we thought, more than we expected. Now, the challenges have always been more than we expected too. But what we're saying here is that if you want to put your faith in the Lord in your decision-making, the key is two plans. One of them, ignorant, flawed, and limited. My plans. The other plan, righteous, wise, deeply good. Once you know that there are two plans, you roll your work off to the Lord and you drive away in hope, even in the uncertainty. What does this boil down to? Trusting God means leave your plans open. Don't dictate outcomes to God. Don't even bother. The outcomes I want right now are basically no good. Leave your plans open. Leave the outcomes in the fog. It's okay. What you should close are God's principles. So often we do the reverse of this. We want to close our plans around certain outcomes, and then we're going to open up God's principles like a toolbox and see, how can I get the things that I am planning for using these spiritual tools? No. That's called arrogance. And you're going to come to no good end treating God that way. No, the principles are closed. They're done. They're good. They're right. We trust Him. We trust those principles. Do the things that God has shown you to do in His Word. Think in terms of right and wrong. Outcomes? Well, surprise me. Show me what you can do, Lord. I'm going to cast it all upon you. That is what faith in God in decision-making looks like.